Good afternoon and welcome to Liquid Lunch with the Regional Water Authority. I'm your host, Kevin Watsey. I'm the Director of Public Affairs at the Regional Water Authority, and I'm also the resident water nerd here at 103.5 WNHH. If you're listening for the first time, the rules are simple. Just go to your tap, grab a big glass of tap water, sit back, relax, and enjoy your liquid lunch. Also, if you're listening to the show live, we're in the third week of August here. Kids all around the state, the region, are getting ready to go back to school. Parents are breathing a sigh of relief. But we decided this would be the perfect opportunity to talk about education. You may be wondering, well, what does the water company, why would the water company want to be talking about education? That's because the Regional Water Authority has a very large education program. And so I have invited my friend and colleague to come on and talk about the education program. Her name is Lisa DeFrancesco. She is the Multimedia Communications and Education Team Lead at the Regional Water Authority. We're going to focus on the second part of that very long title, the Education Team Lead part. Lisa, welcome to the show. We're going to kick off the show like we always do. Ask us to tell our audience your story. Where'd you grow up? How did you become the main educator at the Regional Water Authority? So please tell us your story.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me today. My story on how I got to the water company is actually quite serendipitous. I grew up in Torrington, and I decided I needed to spread my wings from the small area of Torrington and went to the bustling metropolis of Burlington, Vermont for college. I started out in a field that I wasn't quite prepared for. Ended up in engineering, which I still have a passion for, but not the math background. So that was a pretty quick end to that trip.
What kind of engineering?
I started in civil engineering.
Civil. Ooh.
I was looking forward to a reinforced concrete as a class because they got to make canoes. Never got there. So maybe a retirement project will be a concrete canoe.
There you go.
So switch gears, went to my minor, which was forestry, and fell in love with it. Was very easy, very natural, excelled at it, and decided, okay, natural resources, this is where it's at. My last year of college, really like this. I think I'd like to teach, not in the traditional classroom setting, but in that more informal. And I wasn't interested in paying for another year of college if I didn't need to. I was ready to get into the real world. So I figured, let me get out there. Let me see what I can do with what I have. And if I had to go back to school for an education degree, I was in the area. Southern's fantastic. I had plenty of options. Someone had suggested that I look at Regional Water Authority because they have water science education programs. So went on their website and lo and behold, there it was. So I sent an email explaining my situation, saying I was interested in doing this, and got an email back. At the time, they were working with a lot of interns from Southern's education program, and they were getting a lot of science-phobic people. So they decided that they were going to go down a different path and go with science people. Went in for an interview, got to watch some of the classes that happened at the Water Center, and that was 26 years ago, and here we are. 26
years ago. So this was your first job out of college.
It was.
And 26 years later, you're still there.
Yep.
So if you want to build canoes, a few weeks ago, if you listen to the show, we had the mayor of Hamden on. The mayor of Hamden has a degree in naval architecture, which we found out on the show was basically, I thought it was how to build warships, but she explained that she actually, the degree is in how to build anything that needs to live in the water. So it's a long way of me saying, if you want to build a canoe, I can connect you with the mayor of Hamden and you guys could build canoes.
That sounds awesome. One of my favorite classes I had in college was the Global History of Seafaring and Shipbuilding.
I'm sorry. So that's so interesting. So you graduated high school, you got the job at the Regional Water Authority, and 26 years later, you're still teaching there. We're going to get into all of that. But so a lot of the listeners may be sitting there and thinking, wow, the RWA has an education program. Can you talk a little bit about the program, the history of it? And I'll just say, if you're listening, chances are you know somebody who Lisa has taught.
Very good chance.
Yeah. But can you talk a little bit about the history of the program, why it exists, why the RWA thought it necessary to create an education program?
Sure. So the Water Center started back in 1990. We are one of the few utilities in the company that has a dedicated education center. There are others that
In the country.
In the country.
Yeah.
There are others that do a lot of classroom programs, but we have our own facility. During that time period, we've reached over 380,000 students. It's really important to the leadership team at Regional Water Authority that we educate our future consumers. It's important that they know where their water comes from. They go home, they educate their parents on water conservation, how to make better choices with pollution and recycling, just to be better environmental stewards.
So that's a good segue. So you said conservation, things like that. Can you talk in some detail about some of the different classes? Because actually, before we go there, let's talk about the different aspects of the education program, because it's
Sure.
not only in class teaching that you do. So can you kind of give a high level overview of those, and then we'll go into specifics about each
Yeah.
one of the segments of the education program?
So primarily what we do are classroom programs where we go into the school's classrooms. Most importantly, for everything that we offer, it is free of charge, as long as you are in our service district, either as a water customer or if we have land in your area. So we go into classrooms, hour-long programs covering everything from how we get water to where you live, water conservation, invasive species, macroinvertebrates. People can also opt to come to the water center. That was definitely much more popular 15 years ago. Busing has gotten very expensive. It's difficult for students to get funding from their schools to get the busing.
And where is the water center?
Water Center's in Hamden, right on the New Haven line on Whitney Avenue.
Right by the museum.
Yes,
correct?
and the
Yep.
waterfall. Everyone knows where the waterfall in Hamden is.
And across from our big, beautiful water treatment plant.
It is. So that's the bulk of it. We also offer loan boxes, which are self-contained science teaching kits. We deliver them and pick them up. Teachers can choose them out of our brochure. There's lots of different activities in there, but they can decide what fits best with their curriculum. They can do one activity, they can do all of them, and it fits into their schedule best. Instead of saying, I'm coming in for an hour, they have to make room in their schedule. We also have Project Water, which is our hands-on water science class for middle schoolers. It's typically offered through 6th to 8th graders. 7th seems to be the sweet spot for where it fits nicely into most of our district's curriculum. They do about 3 hours of classroom work that's facilitated through video, and we drop off supplies so they can do activities on watersheds and water quality testing, and they look at maps, understand why what we're going out in the field to test for is important. When they're done with that, we pick them up in our Project Water school bus that we own and I drive. I've had many Miss Frizzle references over the years that I show up in the water bus, and we travel along the Mill River in Hamden, and we do water quality testing for nitrates, temperature, pH, and dissolved oxygen.
That's awesome. So let's talk about the in-class, because that's, as you said, that's the probably 85% of
Yes.
what we do.
Yes.
How many classes, how many different classes or lessons?
We have about a dozen different programs that we offer, everything from kindergarten up through 6th grade, typically.
All right, so let's talk about a few of them. So I had the opportunity last week to watch one of our programs called Distribution Solution.
Mhm.
So can you talk a little bit about that program?
Sure.
What am I learning in Distribution Solution?
So if you were sitting in a kindergarten class and you were going to be taught the program Distribution Solution, you're learning how pipes are used to bring water to your home, your school, all the places where you have a sink that you turn on to get drinking water. The students start out with a small index card, and they get to draw someplace to live. It can be where they live now, someplace from their imagination, cool thing that they saw. Some of them end up drawing castles and forts and get really, really creative. We put those down on a map. A lot of times the kids are convinced we're going to take out cars and play with it because it looks like what they have in their classroom for their cars, but we do something different. We put down pipes. So the streets are labeled with their street names, a lot of familiar ones for the New Haven area. And then the pipes have matching names written on them. So we'll call a street name. The kids get to look at the pipe. If it's theirs, they find out where it goes. They put it down on the street. When they're all connected, or when they're all down, we'll get connectors, and then they have to figure out where they go. So it's like putting together a big puzzle of pipes.
So you're literally teaching kids how to create a water distribution system.
Yes.
That's so interesting. I So when I was watched the class last week, and I should point out too, these classes they're not just for public school, right? So we'll go talk about the different environments you'll do these in class things besides public schools. Obviously.
Public schools being the primary one.
Yeah.
We also go to private and parochial. We have homeschool groups that come to the water center. We like to have at least 10 students for the non-traditional groups like homeschoolers. During the summer, we'll go to libraries. They're a big user group. And then there's some daycare facilities that have children that are old enough. Because preschools at the low end of our limit. We're at school age and up.
But so the one I was at last week was at a daycare, but it was kindergartners and pre-kindergartners. And the cool thing about kids that young is you get some pretty interesting answers. So one of the questions that they asked was if the kids knew what a community was and the types of things you find in a community. And one little boy raised his hand and very innocently said, in my community, you find the Eiffel Tower. So I think he was probably watching the Olympics. And later on in the interview, we're going to talk about kind of the kids say the darndest things kind
We
of
sure do.
portion of it. So we got distribution solution. Another one I heard you mention that I'd like you to talk about is the lesson you do on invasive species. So what is that called? And I guess what's involved in that lesson and why is it important for kids and adults to understand invasive species?
So invasive species are everywhere. A lot of the things that we see, we don't even realize are invasive. Definitely a lot of the things out there aren't native, but there is a difference in between non-native and invasive. We cover that in the class.
And what is that difference?
The name of the program is actually Invasion of the Aliens.
Okay.
So a non-native plant is one that we don't normally find growing in that area. What makes something invasive is its ability to take over and crowd everything else out. So there's a ton of non-native things. There's so many of them, we don't even realize that they don't belong here because we've seen them for so long. But invasive species have a whole nother level that they can just get in there and take over. So in the beginning of the class, we talk about characteristics. What makes a good invasive species? Its ability to reproduce, its ability to live in different types of environments, being able to eat different types of food. Those give it an advantage over the native species that live there. Then we point out invasive species that they've seen in the area, like purple loosestrife and zebra mussels, phragmites. Those are all really common in the area. Lots of kids have seen them, didn't realize what they were. So we have some conversation about that, talk about their characteristics of what makes that particular species a good invader. Then we have an activity called Successful or Not. So we start out with 4 completely fake, totally made up plants and animals. And they have a list of characteristics, and the kids have to decide based on those characteristics, would they be a good invader or not? So that's kind of our warm-up. One of their favorites is the crested crabbit and the rough-bellied bean. Those 2 are always really popular. When we're finished with that, and they kind of get the hang of, what makes something good, we go to species that are real and that they would find in the area that they may be familiar with. And we go through their characteristics and see if they can decide based on the details and the pictures and what they look like, if they are invasive species or not.
So why, you mentioned it a little bit. So why should I care about invasive species?
Invasive species totally change the environment, its makeup, and the ecosystem. And biodiversity is essential for a resilient environment. And until recently, nurseries are selling invasive species because they're attractive, they're easy,
nice.
They look nice.
So what's one of the attractive, nice and looking invasive species that most people may have on their property and don't know they're invasive?
Winged euonymus or burning bush.
Burning bush. Burning bush.
Right in the fall. It's gorgeous. It's hard to kill. It doesn't need a lot of water. All the characteristics that make it a great invasive species make it tempting for people.
And that's invasive. That is a true invasive and not a non-native harmless.
It is a non-native that is invasive.
So I always point to, and truth be told, before working for the RWA, I didn't know nor care about invasive species. But the RWA, just being there and working around you and a lot of our environmental professionals has really educated me about that. And I always look at the area, and I brought this up to you. When you get off of 91 onto the 40 connector, there's like this bowl area to the left that is, you can't even tell what trees are there, what plants are there, because it's just a sea of invasive species. And I think it's Japanese knotweed, but I'm not sure.
I believe there's some knotweed. I
Yeah.
think there's porcelainberry vine climbing all over it, and a lot of Russian olive.
Yeah, and even as you drive up 91, you can't even see the trunks of trees,
Right.
because they're just overtaken by these invasive species. It's really incredible. And it's one of those things, at least in my mind, you don't notice it until you notice it, and then when you notice it, you can't not notice it
everywhere.
It's incredible.
Yep.
So, and I can tell our listening audience that the RWA, we actually have an invasive species specialist on staff. His entire job, his name is Josh. Josh's entire job is to control the invasive species on the 27,000 acres of land that the RWA manages. Josh just got a new toy that it was funded by the federal government in a grant that we may have Josh come on a future show to talk about this toy, because it's a pilot program to eradicate invasive species in a way that does not harm the environment or the watershed. So we'll keep that in the back of our heads for a future show. All right, so we've got distribution solution, we've got invasive species. What's another one of the classes? What's the most popular class that you teach?
I would say distribution solution is a popular one for the younger classes. There's another one that couples up with it really nicely called Water in My Community. And it's the same floor mat. And we read riddles about people who do their jobs and how each one of those people need water for their jobs. So they have to figure out the riddle who we're describing. Is it a fireman, baker, painter? And then they have to match it up on the community map with the building that it goes with. Usually most classrooms, kindergarten, will do both, kind of spread out between a couple months. Okay. Estimation and experimentation is another really popular one.
And what is that?
It's 4 different science experiments. Of course, it all involves water. And they have to guess how many drops of water will fit on the top of a penny. And if they've never done that before, they're always really, really wrong. As
on
I
the
was.
High end or low end?
Low end.
Low end.
Low end.
Okay.
Most kids are super conservative, and they're like 1. Even though they're practicing with the dropper beforehand, so they get comfortable and they see the drops, they're convinced it is 1 drop. Every once in a while, you get that risk taker kid who's like 70.
So would we be giving away the answer if I asked you how many drops you can fit on a penny, or?
I'll give it away.
Okay.
It's about 25 to 35.
Really?
Yeah.
Does that surface tension have anything to do with that, or is
everything to do
everything
with it?
to do with it? All right.
Yes.
See, my old science teachers would be very happy right now.
Another variable that plays in that, if I have a little bit older group of kids and they're like right there with their observations, I'll have them look at their droppers and then look at their neighbors' droppers. The opening isn't the same on all of them.
Oh.
So that's where they get some of that variability. It doesn't matter how careful you are, how precise you are, how slow you're doing it. If you have a dropper that has a large opening, it can only hold so much water. So you are always going to have fewer drops than your neighbor who has the smaller opening.
It'd be interesting. You may know this. So say average 25 drops. How much water is that? Like, is that like?
I don't have an answer to that.
Oh, so it'd be interesting to know.
Yeah.
Like, you can fit 3 milliliters of water on a penny.
I'm going to have to try that now because I don't know what it is.
Because coming off the Olympics, we all have to talk in the metrics.
Correct. Yes.
Let's talk about one other class. What other class would you like to tell our audience about?
I love macroinvertebrate messages. I think that is one of my favorite classes to teach. And it's a biotic way of looking at how clean the water is. So Project Water investigates water quality through abiotic factors.
And we are going to talk about Project Water in a lot of detail.
Chemical testing, which gives you that moment in time, right here, right now, this is what the water is. Macroinvertebrates gives you that longer period of time. Because like I tell the kids, if something's living in the river and the water quality changes, can't just get up and be like, well, I don't like it here anymore, and, leave and go to another river. So they adapt or they die. So it looks at the different classes of macroinvertebrates, and like class 1 lives in very clean water. Class 2 is okay water. Class 3 can live in polluted water. So we learn about all the different macroinvertebrates. And the cool thing is their images up on their smart boards. So these things look like monstrously large, scary things, and the kids just recoil at some of them, and they don't even know that stuff lives in the water.
So for our audience, give us an example of a macroinvertebrate.
So dragonflies.
Okay.
We see them flying around, and everyone knows what the adult dragonfly looks like. But the kid stage, the insect looks like a beetle. It's not a beetle, but kind of looks like it. Lives in the water under rocks. They need some fast moving water, good oxygen levels. They can live in class 2, okay water. But you have to pick up the rocks and kick at the rocks and have a net to collect them. So when you're in the water doing that collection, it depends on the quantity of what you find, not just a yes or no, the dragonfly was there or the dragonfly wasn't there. Mayflies are another one. If you find a lot of mayfly in the water, you're going to have really clean water.
See, so I should probably take your class. Dragonflies start their life in the water?
They do. They'll spend their 2 to 3 years of their life in the water.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Did you see that video from a few weeks ago, the dragonfly invasion?
I did.
Out on, I forget where it was.
It was around here.
It was around here, yeah. Just looked like millions of dragonflies invading the beach and not really bothering anybody, but because I guess I saw they don't crash into people.
No,
they kind of avoid people.
The adults will bite, but they need to be provoked.
Okay.
One's not just going to land on you and bite you for fun.
That is so interesting. So, see, I learned something today. You had mentioned when we were going through the different offerings of the education program, the loan box.
Yes.
So you talked a little bit about what it is, but kind of tell us again, what is the loan box? Why does it exist, and how does it work?
So the loan boxes are self-contained science kits. They have their own curriculum and teacher's manual that's in there with them, and all the supplies shy of like water, pencils, and photocopies that you would need for the activities. It came about because we serve a 20-town district, but there's only 2 educators, and we can only be in so many places at once.
And up until a year and a half ago, there was only 1 educator.
For quite a while.
And that was you.
That was me. And as much as I'd like to be able to clone myself and be in other classrooms, that's not going to happen yet. So we took our simpler programs, Water Wizards, Water Wizards 2, Waterworks, which is about the water cycle, and turned them into our loan kits. They're very clearly explained, easy for teachers to do in the classroom. When Project Water came on board back in 2000, that's when we had to start making some decisions of there's only so many hours in the day. How can we best serve everybody's needs? And that's where loan boxes came in.
And how does a teacher get a loan box?
They can email us or give us a call and make a reservation.
And we drop it off to them?
We do. We bring it to their school, pick it up about 2 weeks later.
And you said it comes with instructions, so we won't walk the teacher through what's in there. They just it's very self-explanatory.
It is.
And teachers seem to like the loan boxes.
They do. Yeah. They have their following. I'd like to be able to get them into more classrooms, but as you said, prior to a year and a half ago, there was only me.
There was only you,
and our programs existed on word of mouth and just repeat customers. So we weren't sending brochures out for a while because we didn't have room to take any more people on. New teachers, new schools, we were at capacity.
Yeah.
And the loan boxes are in those brochures. So we are sending brochures. Every school in our district should expect to get one this year. So that should broaden our reach with loan boxes.
So I remember when I first started with the Regional Water Authority and you and I were talking, I had asked you a question that always sticks with me. If a new teacher called you today and wanted you to come teach a class for them, when could you pencil them in? And your answer stunned me because I think it was 12 to 18 months. It was at least a year out because you were at full capacity. That's one of the reasons we hired a second teacher. But you were, I guess, a victim of your own success, right?
I was.
Yeah, because what happens is, as I understand it, is a lot of the teachers will try and book you as soon as they're done. As soon as you're done teaching, it's like, let's get you on the schedule for next year, right? So there were very few gaps in your schedule. So those are the loan boxes. You've mentioned Project Water a few times. So let's get into a little bit of detail about Project Water. Let's talk about what it is. And then if you're a student going through Project Water, what the experience is like for you.
Sure. Project Water is a water quality testing component. Definitely requires some commitment on the teacher's end. It's not just we have someone coming into the classroom for an hour. They need 3, sometimes 4 class periods to prepare. There's 3 different modules. The first one, they talk about the elements that we're testing for, our parameters, the dissolved oxygen, temperature, nitrates, and pH. For most students, they haven't heard of a lot of these things before, certainly not in the capacity that we're talking about it. So they need to be familiar with it. So they're learning about the things that affect pH and the temperature, and how do nitrates get into the water, and why is dissolved oxygen important. That gets reiterated through the other 2 prep classes, kind of through a review with a worksheet. Watersheds are important because we talk about how watersheds funnel water into one common spot. Whatever pollution is on the land goes into that water with it. So instead of having to look all over the watershed for different pollution sources, depending on the proximity to the river, the water quality testing can show you that same information. So they see how a watershed works.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm going to give a real quick example of that just to kind of give our listeners an idea of what Lisa's talking about. Road salt, perfect example. So,
Yep.
Our water quality testing, we call it raw water, but the water that's in the reservoirs and in the watershed, during the wintertime after heavy snows, the sodium levels in our source water will skyrocket because of the road salt, because
Yep.
the salt melts, it runs off into the streams, which run into the lakes, which we then test for. So that if you're trying to kind of visualize what Lisa's talking about with that, road salt is probably the easiest way to do that. And I've actually known water systems, not here in Connecticut, but in other states, that have had to shut down their water treatment plants because the sodium levels are so high that they can't handle it. And that's all from the road salt. But now that I've interjected that, continue with Project Water.
Kids will also look at topographic maps of the area that we're going to be in, so they can kind of get a feel for the size of the area. A lot of students haven't really left their town sometimes, certainly not paying attention to what's going on around them, and like, oh, we've left New Haven, now we're in Hamden. And the river that we're studying, the Mill River, goes all the way up to Cheshire. So it's helpful for them to see it on a map and then experience it in person. And when I added the map component to it, I'm like, oh, kids are going to find this so boring. Kids love maps. I mean, I love maps.
Me too.
But I chalk that up to being like, a dorky adult.
Yeah.
Kids totally into it. They will sit on that map and just look at it and look for things that they're familiar with. And some of them are amazing at being able to locate, oh, we're here, so that means my house is here. Like, really good spatial awareness. Really good.
That's awesome. So, one quick map thing, and Lisa has seen it in my office. I'm talking about watersheds. If our listeners, you go on Google and Google colorful watershed map of the United States, you will see a map that color codes every watershed in the United States, and you will be stunned by the fact that 1/3 of the country is the Mississippi River watershed. Even rivers that run through western Pennsylvania flow to the Mississippi. So it's a very cool map. Another aside, but it's a super cool map that I encourage everybody to look up. I have a huge 24 by 36 version of it on my office wall. It's awesome. It's
visually amazing just to see it.
So now students have gone through the prep work in class, and now the day has come. Miss Lisa shows up in the giant Project Water bus. The RWA does have a bus.
We do.
And Lisa drives it.
I do.
She's got her CDL. So what happens after you pick them up at their school?
Most kids are really close to where we're going, so it's a short drive. We head up to just north of the main entrance of Sleeping Giant State Park. We're on the back edge of it, and they get the rundown of the equipment that they're going to have. They do practice testing in the classroom beforehand, much more successful that they've seen the stuff before. They may not remember exactly what they're doing, but it's like, oh, this looks familiar. Okay, I know what I'm doing with this. So before we get off the bus, we have the rundown on this is the equipment, this is your data sheet, read your directions. I can't count how many times they say that. Read your directions. And they're pretty self-guided. So we get to our sampling point, they set up, they take their equipment out. I direct them to where they're going to grab their water sample, which is the safest and easiest way to the water, not the, straight down edge that they all want to traverse to get to the water. They don't realize when it's 50 degrees out, the water doesn't feel as nice in about 10 minutes after you've fallen in.
Have you had kids fall in?
I've had a few fall in on warm days.
So, and I'll just throw this out there too, because you and I have talked a lot about it. Project Water is another victim of its own success, right? You're
Yes.
kind of at capacity with
Yes.
that program. But if you're a teacher out there listening and you wanted to email the RWA to ask for information, we're willing to talk to you, but just understand it. It may not be one of those things we can schedule within the school year that you're contacting
Correct.
us.
Yes. But please ask.
But please ask. And plus, we only have one bus, so even though we have 2 teachers now, we still only have 1 bus. So that's Project Water. Briefly, so I participated in this program this year. The RWA also has like a career exploration camp. Can you talk a little bit about how that started and what that's all about?
We do. So back in 2011, RWA hosted a water boot camp, which was put on by 2 water professionals. We were just the host. They ran the program. It was their curriculum. We provided the professionals and the space. And it went to different water companies within the state. And we said, you know what? We can do this too. So we turned it into our own version, which was environmentally focused. So it's a week-long program for about 10 high school students. We've been working with Common Ground High School. We have an ongoing relationship with them. This year we added ESUMS in New Haven, which is the Engineering Science University Magnet School, which was a really nice fit for the program. The students spend a week learning about different careers available at a water utility. We have a huge gap in all utilities, not just regional, not other water companies in the state, just all utilities. There's huge potential for retirement with a large gap opening for employment. And we want to reach kids to start thinking about careers that they normally wouldn't. When you talk about a water utility, a lot of people think of, oh yeah, customer service, water treatment, distribution, construction. But there's so much more to it to make the whole machine work well. And that's what we want to get those students to see, that, you know, they're good jobs. It's a great industry to work in. You can go anywhere in the country, like nursing.
Yeah.
Like, get your skill and go where you want.
Folks who have listened to this show know I talk about that constantly. The utilities, but I talk about water. It's a great job. You may not become a billionaire working for a water utility, but you will have a very, very comfortable life. And if you decide to be somebody who gets a license, like a water treatment license,
Yes.
It's gold.
Yep.
You will have water utilities fighting for you. I've seen it. They just throw money at you because those licenses are not that easy to get. And the people who have them, you know, there are companies that want you. So I will just throw in real quick and then we'll move on. Lisa, also during COVID, because you couldn't go into classrooms, you put a lot of your lessons on YouTube, right?
Yes. So we did the Whitney Water Center Learning from Home. It was a 25 video series, highlighted twice a week, a single activity that we would have done, like the drops of water on a penny, hot water and cold water and density and how they mix. That was really easy for supplies that students had at home, that they could do science along at home. Some teachers were using them in the classroom in lieu of us coming in because we couldn't.
And they're still up there, right?
They are.
Yeah. So you had mentioned at the beginning, but I want to reiterate it. How many students did our program hit last year? Roughly?
About 10,000.
About 10,000. And over the lifetime of the program?
380,000.
Okay. So when I say, if you're listening, that either you have had Lisa in your classroom or you probably know somebody who's had Lisa in your classroom, I'm not kidding. Over 300,000 students in the span of 26 years that Lisa's been doing.
Well, no, the 380 is from 1990.
From 1990. So over the past 35 years.
I would say I've probably reached about 200,000.
200,000. So she is shaping young minds across greater New Haven. So we do have a second teacher now.
We do.
So we do have more capacity. So I wanted to give you an opportunity. Are there towns, you mentioned we teach in towns where the RWA either owns property or actually serves water. Are there towns within that 20-town area that we don't have, that we haven't taught in or we haven't regularly taught in?
So we have a nice geographic radius. New Haven, Hamden, East Haven, West Haven are our largest user groups by far. And the further away you get from that center, the less we've been out to those classrooms. So Guilford, Madison, Prospect, Bethany, Beacon Falls. It's been a while since we've had classes out that way. Woodbridge.
So if you are an elementary school teacher or a middle school science teacher listening to this program right now, and you would like a period off so that Miss Lisa can come in and teach your kids,
or Miss Paris,
please reach out to us, because we would love to be in all of the towns where we have a presence. And now that we do have Paris, our second educator on staff, we do have some capacity to go outside the towns that normally take advantage of the program. So I want to turn a little bit now to, you've been in the classroom 26 years, and you have a really unique perspective, right? So you're not just showing up to the same school, the same classroom every day. You're in a lot of different towns, a lot of different schools. You've seen a lot.
I've seen a lot.
You've seen a lot, and your scars prove it. Now, can you talk about, I'd be interested to hear your perspective of what's changed in the 26 years in the classroom. Obviously, technology has changed, but what is kind of, when you think back over the last 25, 26 years, is there one or two things that jump out at you that have really changed about either how we educate kids or what's going on in the classroom, or even the kids themselves? Like, have you noticed, like, kids from the, early 2000s versus kids now?
Attention spans are a little shorter these days. Definitely noticed as technology came in, motor skills and refined motor skills, a little bit of a delay in there. Some of the programs that we used to do with kindergartners have kind of gotten bumped up the scale a little to older kids, just with the attention span and things along those lines. However, they have such an awareness of the environment and science that they didn't have before.
Oh, really?
When I talk about pollution now, we have a program called Problem with Pollution, and I really try to focus on like local sources of pollution. 15 years ago, if I was talking about pollution and I said to kids, give me some examples, I would get like toxic waste, nuclear radiation,
acid rain.
Valid, but these huge, large-scale problems that you as an individual aren't going to have a significant impact on. So I try to turn it to something that's in their community, something that's relatable, something that they can have an impact on. Go home and be like, hey, we shouldn't put as much fertilizer down. Things along those lines. And the things that kids are aware of now with pollution, like all of them know about plastic in the ocean. And environmental education 20 years ago, it was really kind of doom and gloomy. It was, we need to do this. We need to fix this. There's a problem. It's bad. Now it seems to have a much more positive light because there's such a greater awareness. And I definitely chalk that up to technology with YouTube. And like, I ask kids, like, how did you learn about this? Where did you talk about it? Some of the kids were like, oh, it was in, our weekly reader or a book I was reading. But a lot of times they watch science people on YouTube, and they've just got this amazing awareness that I'm pretty confident you and I did not have at that age.
Yeah, I can tell you I did not have at that age. It's even like recycling. I can remember when recycling first started, and now it's just second nature. And
wasn't a thing when we were their age.
And I guess part of it too is, as a parent, I know when my daughter comes home from school and learns something about, like, turn the water off when you brush your teeth. Kids will just nag at their parents endlessly.
That's what we hope for.
Which is what we hope for. Exactly. We want to create little nags.
That we did our job. If they go home and say, turn off the faucet, it's running, you shouldn't do that while you're brushing your teeth. We did our job.
So I'm sure you have a million funny stories about the answers kids have given or incidents that have happened, but I'd love to hear one or two of your best stories about like classroom funnies or, interesting things that have happened.
One of the things that stands out, this was probably 20 years ago. Like, kids have no filters. They'll say anything to anyone. If you can talk in front of a group of kindergartners, you can talk in front of a group of any students, because they wouldn't hesitate to say, I don't like what you're wearing. That's not a good color. They're harsh. This one girl said to me, common question, "Oh, do you have any kids?" And a lot of kids are very surprised. And I say, "No, I don't." And she looks at me dead in the eye and goes, "My mom just had a baby. Do you want my baby sister?" I was more than happy to hand over her
Here
baby
it is.
sister. Like, she was done with her.
Oh my God.
That cracked me up.
And now that kid probably has a kid.
Very possible.
Yeah.
It was
20
long enough
years ago,
ago
yeah.
where that is in the realm of possibility. We had a poster contest back in 2000 for why water is important, and it went out to all the schools, and we have the prints framed and hanging at the water center. And I'll look at some of the drawings and the quotes, and it'll say who it was drawn by, the town, and like their age. And I look at that and go like, wow, they're probably 10 years, 15 years into a career. They probably have kids.
And I just last week asked you the question, you're probably teaching kids of the kids that you taught, and you told me what about one of the teachers?
So I had a teacher from West Haven this winter come to the water center for our program called Returning Raindrop. It's on the water cycle. They build a terrarium in a soda bottle. The kids get to bring it home. And she said to me, I came here when I was in 4th grade to do the same exact field trip. And now here she is
Bringing her class
as a 1st or 2nd year teacher. So
it's amazing.
It's pretty amazing.
It is. It's kind of awesome when you think about it, though.
It doesn't feel like that much time could have passed, but clearly we all know how time goes.
We're getting old.
So
I wanted to turn our attention away from the program, but first, if you do have questions about the RWA's education program, reach out to us, email. You can email the company. We'll answer any questions you have. If you're in one of those towns where we'd like to start teaching classes, please reach out to us. We'd be happy to set it up. But I had mentioned your title at the beginning, Multimedia Communications and Education Lead. So you are our multimedia person.
I am.
If you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram,
LinkedIn,
most of the graphics that you see that we post, most of the posts, Lisa does. So because she didn't have enough to do teaching all the time, she decided to teach herself really all of the social media and graphic design and things like that. And so she also does videos for us and all the graphics and a lot of other things. And so she's awesome.
Thank you. COVID was a big part of shaping that first part of the job title, as we all had to pivot and do what we needed to do.
Absolutely. We're going to turn now to get to know you a little bit better with 5 questions that have nothing to do with anything else we've been talking about.
Sure.
Do you have any pets?
I sure do. I have 2 Newfoundlands. I have Sterling, who is just the sweetest, mushiest dog you'll ever meet. He is 10. And then we have Percy, who is 2 and has a lot of energy. He's our little chupacabra.
And for those who don't know what Newfoundlands are, they weigh...
Our guys are in between 110 and 130 pounds.
Yes, so they are very large dogs.
They are large dogs and hairy dogs.
Large, hairy dogs. What is your favorite band or musician?
I listen to a lot of different music, but if I could only put one artist on, it would be Garth Brooks.
Garth Brooks. Have you ever seen him live?
I did.
You did. How'd you like it?
It was amazing. You felt like you were sitting in the living room with him.
And where was it?
It was in New Jersey.
At the Meadowlands, probably?
No, it wasn't.
Outdoor or indoor?
Indoor. It was in the Newark area.
So it was Prudential Center.
Yes, it was Prudential Center.
Yeah. I'm surprised he did a place that small.
Fantastic show. We did not have close seats, but not a big facility, so you kind of still had that close vibe, but great show. Just so much energy. Loved it.
What's your favorite hobby?
Skiing.
Skiing.
Far and away. I have been skiing longer than anything else I've done besides breathing.
And where's the best place you ever skied?
My favorite is Stowe. I grew up at Mohawk Mountain. I met my husband there. I met my best friend there. My parents met there. So it's got a long history in our family.
It's got a
special place in our heart.
Warm, fuzzy place in your heart. Cookies, brownies, or ice cream?
Well, cake would be my answer. But
cake's not an option.
That's not an option. Ice cream.
Ice cream. What kind?
Soft serve. Twist.
twist. Oh, so vanilla chocolate soft
Yeah,
serve twist.
that's my default.
Okay.
I've been broadening my horizons with the hard pack ice cream. I would have said before I don't like chocolate. That's what I've gotten the last 3 times I've gone for ice cream.
Oh.
So trying different things.
I just had a really good chocolate ice cream. The brand Tillamook.
Oh, yes. I've
Their
heard of that.
chocolate is really good because it's laced with very thinly shaved chocolate shaving.
Nice.
So it's got a little texture to it. Anyway, last question in the getting to know you better is tell us about your favorite teacher and why they're your favorite teacher.
My favorite teacher starts in college. Doc Donnelly from the University of Vermont was one of my favorite professors. His enthusiasm was contagious because we're old, as we previously established. We didn't have smart boards and all that. We had the overhead projectors with the film that you would write on with the vis-a-vis markers. When he was done teaching class, his hands would be covered in marker because he'd be constantly taking the cap on and off and putting it back in and writing. He just had a love for nature that was amazing. Like, just a great human being.
Doc Donnelly, you think he's still
Doc
with us?
Donnelly.
Or?
I haven't heard otherwise.
Well, if you're out there and you know Doc Donnelly, tell him that Lisa appreciates everything he did, and we try and bring out good teacher stories because I really feel like teachers are one of the most underappreciated groups of people in this world. Without good teachers, you and I don't exist.
Very true.
So I ask all of our guests to tell a story about their favorite teacher. Maybe one day I'll tell a story about some of my favorite teachers because they were all my favorites. All right. Well, that is our show, actually. I try and end every show talking about the one thing I want people to keep in mind and take away from the show. And for today's show, it's pretty simple. The RWA has an exceptional education program. We're teaching kids all over the New Haven region about the environment, about water supply, about how to take better care of it and really use this precious resource that we have in a responsible way. Lisa and Paris, our educators, are out there every day talking to your kids. If you have kids, the chances are Lisa and Paris are talking to them at some point, teaching them these lessons. And if you'd like more information on it, please visit the RWA website and we'd be happy to let you know more about it. And until our next show, this has been Liquid Lunch with the Regional Water Authority, and I've been your host, Kevin Watsey. And until our next show, have a good time. And I will just let you know our next show is most likely going to be with the New Haven Department of Health, talking about their lead abatement program. So keep on the lookout for that. Stay hydrated, stay cool, stay awesome. Thanks.